NECA releases another Kong, and collectors go bananas. Here's your look at the new NECA Toys King Kong, the illustrated version. The illustrated King Kong features a paint scheme that pays homage to the classic posters for the films. Basil Gogo's artwork for the cover of the 1974 issue of Famous Monsters in Filmland. Illustrated King Kong includes interchangeable head and swappable hands. Before we get a closer look at illustrated Kong, the first thing we're going to want to do is clock Kong in to see how tall the figure actually stands. I'd also like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of illustrated Kong that we could have a look at right now. Kong should be available in retail stores and online as well. Taking the tape measure right to the very top of his head, illustrated Kong stands 8.3 inches in height. We can switch that to centimeters, revealing that this giant primate is 21.1 centimeters tall. If you were fortunate enough to pick up the earlier released King Kong from NECA Toys last year, then basically you're going to be getting the exact same figure here with a brand new coat of paint. He also includes the exact same accessories that we had a look at in the review of that other primate, included such as these big giant mauling monkey hands. These are the exact same hands that we got included with the previous King Kong. Just as you can see, there's a whole lot of additional coloring comes into play. Some cooler toned blues and some warmer colored yellows and oranges. As you can see, it's still got the same sculpting, but as you can see, much brighter looking fingernails on these particular hands. But these give you the option available if you want to swap out the existing fist hands that are currently in the sockets of King Kong right now. To come also included, similar to the original release, you also get yourself the angrier expression King Kong head. Now, I think for the fact now that I have two of these in my collection, I'm probably going to display the original King Kong with the angrier head sculpt that you're currently seeing here. And I think for the illustrated artwork King Kong, I think it kind of makes a little bit more sense to kind of go with the head sculpt that's currently on his shoulders. But I did want to definitely show you guys closer look details at the work that they put into these head sculpts. Not only was I a big fan of these head sculpts with the sculpting alone before, but now you start adding a whole lot of additional colors that you're really not used to seeing on this giant primate. You can see all the nice warm mustard yellows. Ooh, look at that. Lighter yellows, warmer oranges all come into play on the one side of his face. And as you spin it around to the other, you're treated to some cooler greens and cooler blues. You can see it stretched across his face. Now, I understand that not everybody is going to be getting on board wanting to get an illustrated version of King Kong. I'm sure many of you would be content just to get the regular colored King Kong, and that's fine and good, but I like the color scheme on this one, especially if you've got the light hitting it from certain angles. It really does illuminate the colors painted across the surface of the plastic here. Again, you got the detailing on the interior of the mouth. Stunning work. It looks like he has several different cavities he probably may need to get looked at. Now, when it comes certainly for his teeth are a more darker, almost gold caramel color, unlike the kind of off-white color I think we had with the original released King Kong. Nice detail work on the interior of the tongue as well, with a little bit of a sheen coat added to it, so that tongue looks nice, wet, and sloppy. Stunning work. For the purpose of displaying these guys, I think what I will end up doing now that I have two King Kongs in my collection is I may probably display the original King Kong with a more angrier expression that you're currently seeing right now in my hands. And I think for the illustrated poster Kong that we're going to be looking at here, I think I'm going to resort to using the same display, the same head attached to the neck right now of the body. But I just wanted to show you guys this head sculpt. Man, is that some really great looking work. Again, not everybody's thing. Some people probably would just enjoy more so the one King Kong with the original colors. But man, it does really work well for the adding all these additional colors. Just the rainbow of colors added across the surface of the plastic. Man, that looks really, really sharp. Go ahead and put the head down there for a second. And let's go ahead and pick up King Kong here, based again on the original artwork from 1974, I believe. A really stunning looking portrait of King Kong. Not much, again, changes from the one that we got before. You're pretty much getting the exact same figure. But what you are getting is now all this additional coloring. It's not the first time NECA Toys have done this. In fact, actually, even with their Godzilla releases, they had released 2 versions of basically the same King Kong, same Godzilla. Now I'm mixing up monsters. It basically was just a different coat of paint. And I really feel like that works exceptionally well. They also did it also with the video game inspired characters, using going back to the original inventory of molds, just pulling those figures out and giving them a brand new coat of paint. I welcome that completely because it gives us a different way, a different perspective when it comes to looking at these same figures that you may already have in your collection. But to get a good gander at that face, let's just bring in the 2 head sculpts again so you can see the difference between the 2. I will say what works in the favor of this King Kong, and actually both King Kongs, was the fact that you do get yourself 2 different head portraits. Very, very different head portraits from one another. So if you, again, have both of these now in your collection, I'm all for the idea of displaying this one like this, and displaying the original King Kong with this head sculpt here. And being that it is, after all, the exact same mold, it's nothing really to say that you can't just pop the head sculpt off the other one, and just give King Kong one with almost a tribal paint just on his face. Go ahead and move that to the side. Again, just because it's simply the same figure that we've gotten before, I don't really want to undersell how good the sculpting is on the actual head sculpt and the rest of his body. The fur really certainly pops, especially when you've got the extra color here that wasn't there before. The main color before on King Kong was basically like this color right here. Dark brown and a little bit of the brown like highlighted in some of the areas. I probably should have brought in that other King Kong, but I know so much of this is basically what we saw with the other King Kong that I figured it would be a lot easier just to kind of show you guys what would have been on the original release. Now granted, with this version, again, you've got a whole stretch of Crayola colors just painted across the surface of the plastic. You got some nice little blues, turquoise colored blues, some pinks, some yellows. Basically all the colors of the rainbow are across the plastic of King Kong here. The one thing about it, though, is as you spin it around to the back, you get really a lot less of it. Obviously, if it's based on original illustrations, original posters, the part that you're going to be seeing of Kong is more so going to be like this side right here. So, of course, when it comes to the back side, you're really not going to be getting as much of it, with only just a few little faint traces of the blue and the beiges and the browns and the lighter browns and stuff like that. And again, that's fine for me, because really, again, the whole purpose of displaying these figures is you're going to be wanting to display them from the front with a full color spectrum on King Kong here. The molding, again, is absolutely the same to the one that we got before. You get a little bit of additional color here on the lower legs, just with a little bit of yellow there on the one area of his leg, and a little bit of the, well, actually, you get all the rainbow colors right here, green, blue, red, and yellow. I think short of that is just purple, and we can sing a rainbow too. But again, like the sculpting on this guy was just as good as the one before. I really did praise NECA Toys for releasing such a great looking Kong with that first release. And again, I really like this one with a different color palette. I'm still favoring, I think, the original King Kong because, again, it's just more the traditional colors. But again, I'm welcoming the idea of re-releasing already great looking molds with just a different coat of paint. Again, one last time, just spinning this around. I had said this in the review of the other King Kong, and again, if you guys want to check that video, it should be available on the channel. But with the other King Kong, and even really going to this mold as well, the mold is so good, I would love to see them release this as a black and white treatment as well, paying homage to the original King Kong film. I mean, again, they really wouldn't have to do anything differently to it. They could include the exact same head sculpts. Maybe they could even include a little tiny girl to sit inside his hand, but I would definitely be open to the idea of them releasing this guy again with an all black and white treatment. So let's go ahead and run through the articulation on Kong. His head rotates all the way around. Rather abnormal, really, the way that it's posed, but it's just basically the way the head sits. You can also hinge it up, and you can also hinge it down, and you can also rock his head back and forth as well. As for his arms hinge out. Now the arms are a little on the tight side on this particular figure. I can only bring out the arms to about a 45-degree angle bend, and I really don't think I'd be able to bend it any further past that point, just because when you're looking at so much of the sculpting here on the shoulder, I really don't think they've allotted for much clearance when it comes to having the arms come out any further than that. I really feel like that's the stopping point. That's the point that's telling me don't go any further than that. Despite that, you can still rotate the arm perfectly fine all the way around. King Kong has a swivel in his bicep. You can again see some of the areas are a little left off when it comes to the paint. But again, like the majority of the figure really is what you're seeing from the original poster artwork. As for his elbows, he does have a double hinge on the elbow. So he's got one there, that allows a double hinge bend like that. You can also rotate King Kong's hands all the way around, hinging it back and forth. Then the upper torso has a ball joint, so you can rotate that all the way around. And then for his lower area, I don't know if I mentioned this before when we looked at King Kong, but this little area right here, the lower end of his torso, is all a softer plastic. They've done that in two ways. One, to not limit the articulation on the legs, but also to hide the joint that attaches where the leg attaches to the lower half of his body. So it's really smart. It keeps things clean and it looks consistent, even though, yes, technically you're going to see a line right there where the leg is a separate piece from the rest of his body. But the leg does hinge forward and back. I can't help but notice when I'm hinging the legs out and I'm hinging the legs forward and back, that I don't know if you can hear it or not. Yeah, you can hear that. There's a good, strong ratchet joint working behind the scenes. I'm really glad to see that they are consistent when it comes to using ratcheted joints for these larger build figures. It guarantees that there's going to be a little more stability when you're looking to display this figure on the shelf. Last and certainly not least, King Kong has a double hinge on the knee, 1 and 2, allowing for a little bit of bending in his knees. Now granted, when it comes to displaying this figure, you don't want to off-balance him by not having his feet firmly planted on the ground. So even though technically he does have the knee bend, you really can't get him in any of a different pose than just having him standing straight up, because obviously if you're going to bend his knee like this, it's going to cause a little bit of problems with this giant monkey. He's going to be falling over on you. Last but certainly not least, King Kong, the illustrated version of King Kong, or the original King Kong, also has a swivel in his ankle, and you can also hinge it up and down as well. So he has it basically where it counts. Getting him in one last final pose. Again, I didn't take the liberty of actually swapping out the head in this review. I felt if anything else, I was just going to show you guys what it looked like up close and personal. But I think certainly when it comes to displaying King Kong for myself on the shelf, I didn't mind to actually rhyme that. But when I look to display him on the shelf, I think what I'm going to ultimately do is display the original King Kong with this head sculpt, which I think is what I ended up doing when I have him on display. I end up just resorting to having him displayed with this head sculpt. And I think when it comes to the illustrated version of King Kong, now that he's got this bright color scheme, I think this particular head sculpt lends a little bit better to this design and this color palette for this giant primate. While I'm not one that dabbles too much into figure photography, I've seen some real talented photographers over on Instagram posting their polished pics of some of their favorite NECA figures. And I gotta really think that poster illustrated King Kong would be an ideal candidate for their photography, because not only are you getting the great sculpt that we got with last year's release of Kong, but you're getting these extra rainbow pops of color. You got the lighting hitting this just the right way. Boy, this figure really would stand out, similar to what they've done here on the front box artwork that comes included with the figure. Casual collectors of Kong may probably just end up avoiding picking this one up, happy with the one that we got last year. I suppose of the two, I am a happier collector of getting the one from last year as being my primary primate. But I will say, though, I do really appreciate the fact that they added as much color to this one, giving a more closer proximity to the way he looked and resembled in those illustrated illustrations and the poster artwork that we got from the early 70s or so. This one does have still the swappable heads that we got with the earlier released one, and really the same monkey hands. There's really not much that changes between this one and last year's release, other than just a different coat of paint. But I will say, though, the benefit, like I said in this review, of getting two swappable heads is that I can change up the look of Kong. I can have the angry expression on the default original Kong, and then I can go with this portrait for this particular Kong right here. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I still think I like the original one more so just because it's your OG King Kong with traditional monkey colors, but I really think that NECA Toys did a bang-up job by adding all the extra colors that they did, mimicking the artwork that we would have gotten back in the day advertising the movie. What do you guys think of King Kong here in his illustrated portrait with all the additional rainbow colors? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Let me know down below in the comments section. Actually, also for your video question for today, because we of course can't overlook our video question for today. Your video question for today is, what's your favorite giant monster movie? Is it King Kong? Is it Godzilla? Is it another movie? Let me know down below what your favorite giant monster movie is. Also, if you're new to this channel and you're liking all the content you're seeing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you turn on the bell notification. Make sure, yes, you come back to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A big thank you as well to the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample of illustrated King Kong that we were lucky enough to have a look at in this review. Lots of other additional NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. There's a whole ton of stuff to go through. So there's lots of videos always coming your way. So always keep your peepers peeled to this channel. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.